Howdy. So I just uploaded a video last week. It's a compilation of a bunch of cartoon and animation reviews that I've done over the last few years. Yeah, I like cartoons. You like cartoons? I don't know what this discount Joe Para voice that I'm doing is, but I like cartoons. So as someone who likes a thing and occasionally does an attempt at the thing he likes, I've made some animation. Here's my very first one that I uploaded to said channel. Ooh, what a ride. So nostalgic. I love looking at when I was shit at things. Well, more shit. I'm still shit. But I was more shit than I am now. What I'm saying is there's a few things I do differently, so here's me doing it differently. So what's super cool about what I'm about to do is I was actually able to track down all of the old files for the bit of animation we just saw. Let's go ahead and give it a watch. Not quite what I remember. Okay, so all the files aren't attached, but we'll just pull up all the raw stuff anyway. Okay, so we've got our background. God, that's noisy. I thought that was a higher res thing than what's in there. That might have been why I desaturated it until it looked like a piece of paper. I believe that is the side of an art kit, like a little wooden suitcase style thing with a bunch of colored pencils and paints and watercolors that I used to make this ball. And I'm pretty sure I was able to use the mask tool, as it initially was in this program I'm using, to wrap it around the ball and get rid of the white stuff. Recently, they upgraded the masking feature. And while it's a pain in the ass if you're used to how it was laid out in the effects panel in here, like I was, it does ultimately become a more useful and almost like Photoshop or After Effects adjacent version of what we had before. So what the hell am I talking about? Let's drop these guys in, shrink them down to our conventionally sized video file. I'm gonna go down here to the Object Mask tool. I'm going to select of course, as soon as I need it to work for me, it stops working. What a great feature. Oh, I see. I have to highlight the thing that I want to drop the mask into, in this case, the opacity. Because ordinarily, if you automatically mask something out, it'll just drop it into this unassigned masks tab. And then you're supposed to like drag and drop that on top of whichever thing you want to apply the mask to, whether it's an effect, or in this case, the opacity, aka just let me mask the fucking ball out. This is a saltier episode, what you're watching right now. Oh, bingo. Success. So I'm gonna click on that man, and now we got a ball. So as you can see, it's loosely inspired by the one from the Pixar movies. It's a little sketchy, a little over sharp compared to the last one, but you know what? I kinda prefer that. So the big thing that sticks out to me is that the squish that happens on each bounce isn't dictated by gravity, but rather the squish that I assigned as I went along. And regardless of which way the squish would be happening, I'm like, oh, it's hitting the ground, so I'm just going to arbitrarily make the width go echin. But I don't want it to just go echin, I want to make it go echin. Trick there being, the echin has to be the last thing that I do. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to go ahead and just start mapping the trajectory of the ball. I would like it to come in from off screen like last time. And then over the course of, what do we got here? Well, for one, it's too long. Over the course of about 15 seconds, it's gonna do its little dance, make a little love, get down tonight, across the screen. What I'm very curious about is if I can make it go from left to right and then worry about the little stops. Nah, nope. I think what I'm gonna have to do is just manually eyeball it like I did last time. So I'm going to start from off screen, create a keyframe, and then by the time that much plays, we will be down over here. Okay, except rather than going straight over, I would like it to arc. Nice. It's a very sudden swoop there, which tells me I need to stretch that guy a little over. I'm gonna duplicate this, make it go slightly to the right. Except now it's doing this BS, where it keeps going for some reason. What a wonderful software that glitches out. Okay, after some painstaking, finickingly frustrated keyframe placement, here's what we've ended up with so far. As discussed, Adobe Premiere sucks. So even though I'm trying to lock the floor, so to speak, to a specific value on the Y coordinate in motion/position, it still kind of like dips past that, even though, nah dog, I didn't ask you to do that, but the machine's gonna do what the machine's gonna do, you know what I'm saying? Good thing that won't escalate. Good thing that won't determine any fates. That the key frame is to have 2 of them shits at every stop, whether it's the squishing against the floor or the arc at the top, because that way you get to have that grace period where there's some kind of like motion, even though it's not doing one of the extremes of up or down. So it's simulating gravity is the goal. So next what I'm gonna do is the rotation part. Now, you could, in theory, just start at one value and then have it be continuous until it gets to its destination. We'll go ahead and play that, see what it looks like. Lo and behold, not that bad. It needs some finagling, so I think in keeping with the rule of 2s at each, bounce point or arc point, I'll slow it down just a smidge, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's pretty smooth and feels organic as is, so color me impressed on that front. What I will say is once it starts rolling, that's when it should start slowing down. So this is the point where we're gonna start changing the variety of keyframes. In this case, it's gonna be the ease in. The rest of them shits, I'm gonna switch them to auto Bezier. Bezier? Bezier. Benoit. Kind of gives it a more rounded stop. And we're also gonna have an ease in for the left to right motion as well. I think the key is ultimately to figure out in each chunk how far the ball should go. And if I recall, it ends with it going slightly forward and slightly back. You know what? A screen capture is for the birds. You know what I ought to do? I should just capture the screen with my camera, because now it's fucking frozen. So, yeah, if you like my lo-fi shit, if you like my DIY approach to everything, you're in luck. Shit's about to get slightly worse for the sake of my sanity. False alarm, false alarm. The mouse was just dead. We're almost done. Okay, so after a few more gray hairs up here, I've got it essentially where I want it to be. I wanted to see... That was a weird roll. Aye. Alright, well, we're just gonna keep the weird roll. That's gonna stay in, like a ghost wanted to play and finally reached into our realm to nudge it back the direction it came, a few inches. So let's get to the squish. What are we gonna do about the squish? Well, I am going to make a nest out of the ball layer. Ordinarily, you use a nest to combine a bunch of clips and elements into a single layer on the timeline that you can manipulate, and it applies those little tweaks to all of them at once, as if they were from the same clip. It's a trick that I use pretty frequently for a variety of things in my various video projects. Now that we have nested it, all of the movements, rotations, and shifts are happening as if that was the raw file. So now when I apply the squish, which is going to involve making a non-uniform scale, it is going to stretch and finagle in a way that the original didn't, because again, I did all the squishes in that first layer of action. Problem with that being, sometimes when it bounced it would do this, sometimes when it bounced it would do this. I just want this. So in order to achieve that, I am going to move the anchor point all the way down to the floor. So now, whenever I adjust the height, it's gonna do that with reference to where the anchor point is, meaning every time it bounces, no matter which way the ball is facing, it's gonna be on that floor that I have now set. So, that in mind, we're going to go back to the beginning, and then every time we get to one of the bounces, that's where we fuck with the height. Not the width, the height. Lol. Lamau. If I wanted to get really like expressive with it, I would make the width go this way a little bit every time it gets like smaller, but we'll see how I'm feeling after I do this very basic thing. Okay. Needs to be a little more exaggerated. It looks kind of bland without it, so I guess I'll be doing that actually. So I'm gonna line up the keyframes of the height manipulation with the width manipulation. So as it gets shorter, it's going to get wider. Oh, oopsie. The problem with that is that now the anchor point is going to, Lord. Because the anchor point is like the center of gravity and matter for all existence. The bounce, it going like blah, that's fine, because everything's pulling it downward, and that's how the ball is manipulated so long as it's going down. But now that we've added left and right, every time I make it wider or, narrower, it's gonna pull back towards the fucking anchor point. I think the solution to this is to just really make the height noticeable. And then once we get through the rest of the animation, it'll probably just work better than with the single bounce. So bounce 1, bounce 2 coming up, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So basically I'm oscillating it between 90 and 100 on the scaling. So boink, boink, and then it's going to be a little less exaggerated as the bounces are smaller. So like maybe by 5s there. Is this better? Well, let me add the shadow. We've got the long shadow here with a bunch of parameters that I'm not even familiar with. Oh, that's so much better though. Oh, that's cool. All right, so then I get to mess with the angle, the opacity. What about blur? Can I make it softer? Alpha fall off, what's that? Yeah, that's what I want. Cool. So yes, I did make it better because now the shadow is long. Ain't that neat? Let's play it back. Time well spent. Well, yeah. As far as first animations go, I feel like beyond the flaws of the final product itself, I think one of the flaws is doing something that fluid and reliant on realistic physics in Adobe Premiere in the first place. It was a good way to warm up the method for this animation that I have nicknamed Econoflash. And I think what I'm going to do in the next upload is talk about that, revisit other stuff that I did in that style, and maybe weigh in on how I could continue to use those methods in current projects of mine, whatever they might be. Major, minor, fan animations. Cheeky. Foreshadowing. This concludes ProNov. The whole show. I'm done again. I made it a few episodes in before I gave up again. Subscribe if you want.